Hey, and it's Wednesday night. Back at
Wednesday
it.
night, Tech Talk night, right?
It's Tech Talk Live. Tonight's thumbnail, I didn't have Tech Talk in there, but and I scavenged it from Ryan Roberts from SSR Performance. If you haven't noticed, he put up this really cool, I don't know, homemade scab together picture of his Monte Carlo doing a wheelie for the Triple Crown class at at the track. So, and his buddy kind of like threw it together with just a terrible Photoshop on purpose to make it look cheesy. So I decided to grab that, and then I just threw our faces on it, and I threw the Wednesday Night Tech Talk Live on it, and it landed right on Ryan Roberts' face. So no offense, dude, I didn't mean to do it that way. I literally had like 5 minutes to create that thing.
I think it's awesome. I like the picture because you can see him holding a bottle and he's got like his hat on. It's like
like he's just having way too much fun driving that car.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, but so we're just having some fun with it tonight. So first in the house was a Bobby Frizzell tonight at Frizzell Racing. Slant Day the Garage came in second, but I literally did not put this thing up until like I think it was I started 10 minutes before our start time is when I put the thumbnail and everything up tonight. So I mean, I've been thrashing. I was working on Project Easy 302. Oh my God, I've had to reshape the domes on the pistons, and it pretty much has taken up all my life. Okay. Michael Robert Embry was the third in. Tony's Hot Rod Garage was in here. Val 360 Jimmy, Miss Cadgy, Blue Grit Garage, One-Eyed Cat, Mr. Don. Let's see. Val 360 Jimmy. The Buick Smith is in the house. Levi's Backyard Performance, rattling everybody's cage. SSR Performance. Hey, like I said, I didn't mean to grab your picture and then throw our logo on top of your face. I didn't see it until after I put it up. So I'm sorry, James.
I don't think you mind. It's a great picture, man.
Yeah. Rabbit Transit Garage, Mama M3, and I think we're just about done where we're done calling the roll call. I think everyone's here. Oh, Indecisive Garage. That's pretty cool. I don't think I've ever seen that one before. And 38 Racing is in the house. So, which used to be, 38 POS. So, and now
something I'm going to say real quick.
Sure.
So Gunslinger Graphics. We've been tantalizing you guys with pictures or an actual T-shirt for the Cookie Monster here. So we're going to go full John Wilburn because why not? So here is what can you see it good right there?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yep. So that's the front, and then this is the back. This is the perfect. Can you read it?
Oh yeah. Now that's a cookie.
Yep, that's right. I showed that to him at the No Name Nationals. He goes, dude, I got to make that into a T-shirt. And I said, oh yeah. So anyways, I think he said not this coming Friday, but the next Friday at Gunslinger Graphics. Go check it out. That'll be awesome, man. It helps out the community. And yeah, we're gonna go from there. Yeah, go talk to Tony's Hot Rod Garage. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think that's awesome. So I'm gonna get one, and I think the boy's gonna get one, and I can't wait for him to wear it to school.
Oh, dude, they're gonna make him take it off. Yeah. Oh man. So Michael Robert Embry says drink and run before 10 a.m. makes you a pirate, not a drunk. Once upon a time, I used to be in the Navy. We used to say it was 5 o'clock somewhere. So that was because your time zones really didn't matter. Everything changed.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. I did miss somebody else jumped in here and I missed them. See if I can find out who it is here. I don't know. I missed it now. All right. And Michael Robert Embry says Cookie Monster should be looking up. And he is in the picture.
He is definitely looking up. That, like I said, I went full John Wilburn. You want the real experience? I think he said that they'll be up there website early next week. So Gunslinger Graphics, go check it out. That's the best shirt ever, I think.
So Buick Smith is asking, what's a good company to order glass for a 65 Chevelle? Everyone around here wants 380 for the front and 217 for the rear.
That's unfortunately the going rate.
Yeah, that is about the price, man. I literally just put a windshield in my 95 S10 last week, and I paid $328. So, I imagine that 380 is probably about the number.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, that's the sad part, is it's going to be Chinese glass. It's going to be Fayo or whatever it is glass.
The one in my 69 Dart before I moved here, it was a used one and it was still $200.
You remember the pull and save, or is it pick and pull down in Nirvana Way?
That's the one. That's where I
went. The glass shop right there. Oh, that's dude, them guys used to come out of Mexico and do all the windshields. It's like $40.
Mine was still $200. It was installed, but it was still $200 to buy from that place.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Andrew Nielsen says, "Good evening, guys." Well, good evening, and I got some update for you. Easy 302. I have 4 of the 8 pistons modified on the dome. So I've been busy chipping away. It took me forever to do the first one. It took literally like 4 days to do the first one. And then, because I didn't know how much room I had, and I was very caring about it. And then the further I got into them, like number 2 looks pretty good. Number 3 is like the reciprocal of the first one. And then the 4th one is just like F it all, right? Like it's like, it's not a hack job. It's just definitely, you can tell I've already kind of figured out where everything needs to be at, and I just have at it. Right.
Yeah. Hey, before you go off of this one, if you guys don't watch Nevac 57, their channel, Andrew Nelson and Calvin Nelson, I'm only going to say this: you should really keep an eye on their page in the coming months. They got some really, really, really cool stuff coming up, and keep track of what's going on with that, because they've got some really, really cool stuff coming out. So yeah, please make sure that you stay with him and hit the bell to get. That way, you know when things come up.
38 Racing says, Shayna might have to order one of those up for your Cookie Monster shirts. Uni Motorsports Garage says, howdy, folks. I can't wait to get my Cookie Monster shirt. And then Tony's Hot Rod Garage says, Cookie Monster shirts will be on the website early next week.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Man, I was thinking I should make a shirt. I need to make a shirt. The Wicked Chicken. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm really considering making a Mr. Rotter's Neighborhood shirt. It's what I really need to make.
Dude, then, go like full, like, remember, what was that movie? Fastest Chicken in the South. Remember that?
Oh yeah. That was huh?
Yeah, didn't Burt Reynolds drive a car just like this one?
Yeah, it was Fastest Chickens in the South. Yeah.
Yeah. So you should make that one, but just a play on that. But that'd be cool.
Well, it probably is the fastest chick in the South, to be honest, at this point. But I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to do one for the T-Bird. I don't know if I think I want to do one for Mr. Rotter's Neighborhood. So, but I'm going to make it look like all the kids from Fat Albert, except for it's going to be like everybody from our group, like our community. So
right.
Yeah, I think that would be kind of cool.
All right. Degenerates would be great.
Let's see. Andy says that his shirt will definitely be in one of his videos. Let's see. All right.
Yes.
Fab Race Mod Repeat says hello from Northeast Dragway. SSR Performance says, I got to do some cab corners on a 98 Chevy pickup. Anyone bought any recently that were decent fit and thickness? Man, you should just freaking come down here to Nashville. It's only like a few hour ride, dude. And like you could cut cab corners all day long at the Junkyard for probably like $20 a pair.
Dallas, you know what? I was just thinking about it. I could see your T-Bird, like when you left the line and your front end's all up. And someone said it in here, it was Stroker Ace. That was the movie, right?
Oh, so yes, that's it.
So do a play like on that, like Mr. Rotter's Neighborhood, but like in the Stroker Ace riding and the Fastest Chicken in the South. That would be awesome, dude.
Well, I think it'd be pretty cool to do something like, say, like, I don't know, school is now in session.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Let's see. Miss Katji says, Dallas, please tell me regarding your choice of 4V Cleveland heads on your Boss thing. Okay. On my T-Bird motor is an Australian head from a place called AFD, Airflow Dynamics out of Melbourne. And now I think they're all full Chinesium. I'm not sure way back when they were all everything was done there. And so it was cast there, it was machined there. And it was, the guy had worked for CHI Cylinder Heads before that. And him and the pattern maker went out on their own, and the pattern maker passed away. And then the heads I got. So I have the AFD SP4 VR racing head is what's on mine. And it flows like, I sent Shane the numbers way back when one day, but they're like, I think they start like 380 CFM, essentially, like just out of the box, right? Like nothing done to them.
It was amazing. Head. That's why when we started like talking about a new camshaft for him when he was going to put the tunnel ram on, I was like, you know what? You got enough head on there. Just leave it alone. He'll flow. Just leave it alone.
Well, and the sad part was it sounded so docile with the single 4-barrel on it because it had a 2V Cleveland 4-barrel intake manifold on it that didn't have a part number on it. And I always thought it was a 4V intake manifold. It's what it looked like. And then when I pulled it off, it's like the ports were a 1/4 inch smaller in every direction. So top, bottom, side to side. It was like it gained like an inch of cross-sectional area in the port when I put the tunnel ram on. And that's where all the monster came from.
Yeah.
So
it sounds different too.
It does totally sound different. Yeah. It sounds way meaner. Let's see. BNR Racing says it was $410 to replace the windshield of my 97 Chevy 454. Oh, all right. Well, that's I guess I guess 300 something bucks is about the going deal for windshield these days. Let's see. Mama M3 is saying vacuum testing versus pressure testing condensers and heater cores. Why do they recommend vacuum testing? So it's not just the condenser. You got two different things going on. Heater cores, you don't vacuum test. Right? That's just like a pressure test. If you do anything, you just cap one in and put some pressure on it, see if it's leaking. The condenser, generally you vacuum test your entire AC system because it's easier to pull a vacuum and then maintain if it maintains the vacuum for like, say, an hour, it's going to retain Freon for a long time. Yeah. And that's why you do that.
Also, too, it helps pull the moisture out.
Oh, that you do need to get the moisture out, right?
Yeah. That's so whenever you open a system up, you got to do that. Pull a vacuum on it, pulls moisture out.
That's right. That's 100% why. So, but if you want to know if it works well or not, literally like one of the coolest things you can do, the air compressor blowgun, you get like a mason jar and you put a hose in it and you throw a smoke bomb in that sucker and then put your air compressor hose with a hose coming out and connect it to your condenser and force all that smoke bomb air into the condenser and hold it under pressure, and you'll find any leaks like real easy.
Yeah.
Okay. Bobby Frizzell says, I need some new shirts for mine. I haven't done new shirts in about 2 years. Oh, yeah, there you go. Fats Chicken in the South, stroke race. Let's see. Andrew Nelson says, one of my engines with the most
wins.
Oh, wins had valve reliefs clearance with a belt sander. I think it had 12 vent wins. Well, I'm actually doing this with a hand Dremel. So I'm starting off with the rotary file for the small flexi shaft Dremel. And then I go to I have a rotary file that I put in my drill on high speed, which is not very fast. And I knocked the big chunks of it off first because I got to take so much off in one spot. Then I get out the rotary file for the Dremel and I take off little pieces, and then I throw on the little sanding roll for the Dremel and smooth it all out. So Tony's Hot Rod Garage says, do both, Dallas. That T-Bird needs to be on a shirt.
Agree.
Probably. I think I need to probably put it on there and I need to come up with something cool, something different. Like instead of maybe I should just put the picture of the T-Bird leaving the line at Jeffers Motors or at Sykeston drag strip, and then it says turducken underneath of it or something like that. That would
turducken.
Be cool. Yeah.
That's good.
Let's see. SSR Performance has lots of good castings. Used to come out of the Aussie land, Pro Top Line. Used to have some great small block Chevy heads. The Australians were kind of on it like early to mid 2000s. when it came to like cylinder heads and casting. And I think what screwed it all up, the best I can tell, was the economy crashing in like 2008, 9, and 10.
Yep.
That's what seemed to take all that down in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
But, let's see here. Val 360 Jimmy says AFD is now owned by an engine builder here in Melbourne. He says he's trying to get made in Australia, but the rest will be made in guess where. Yeah, no surprise. But
Right.
I had bought it. I can't remember the guy's name. It's David something. I bought the heads. They literally came out. I was on vacation with my family. I was okay. To understand me, you got to understand how. I guess to understand how I got this stuff, you have to understand me. I was stationed in Sydney, Australia, while active duty in the Navy. I would take my wife around to neat things that we wouldn't get to see anywhere else in the United States, or just living overseas without just going to see them. So I would take her on trips, and we were on our way down to Tasmania, and I had found a set of Yates C3 heads that were in a box, brand new, 20 years old or whatever it was, 30 years old. And the dude was selling them for like, I want to say 1,400 Australian, which is at the time was about $800 US.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. It's a screaming deal. So I was on my way to see these heads, and they were in Victoria, I think. And I was on my way to Victoria, and we stopped in Melbourne at the Goldfields, and I found out about these AFD heads like literally the day of. It was KJ Jones had done an article where he built a 347 stroker small block, and he made like a mock boss, and he put these AFD 4V heads on it, and it made like 890 horse, and it was like 347 cubes, and it spun to like, I don't remember, 9 or 10 grand. Well, I'm like, I had this freaking epiphany. Man, I got to buy a block and a crank for my 302. If I buy a 302 block and a 302 crank, it costs about the same amount as if I bought a 351 Windsor block and a 351 Windsor crank, right? And I'm like, what would happen if you, instead of having 347 cubes and buzz that sucker up to 9, 10 grand, I made it 427 cubes. And you got to remember, this is 2008. This is way before anybody was doing this.
Yeah.
And I took it up to, like you would make all that same amount of power, but at like 6,500, 7,000. And that's, 7,000, Shane will tell you, is the magic number. That's where valve train starts to become unstable and dollars really start to matter, right? Yeah, they go way up. So if you keep it below 7 grand, you're going to be good to go. Yeah. And so that's what I did, is I started with that. I actually found that set of heads when KJ Jones did the article in like 5.0 magazine. I actually called David that day, and I said, "Hey man, I want to come take a look." And I went down there and I told him what I was doing, and he was like, "Man, I've never had anybody do that yet." So I was all about it, and he gave me the runaround, like the tour on what was going on. It was literally like out of a 2-car garage where they had like a foundry, and everything was like pretty much done there. So yeah, here we are. Let's see. Rabbit Transit Garage says I used a smoke bomb trick to get raccoons out of my shed.
It works.
Yeah, good.
It does.
Okay.
They don't like it.
Yeah. Let's see. Andrew Nelson says 1/2 by 18-inch belt sander works great for quick shaping and finish with finer tools. Yeah, I've been looking at those. They got finger ones now. It's like a finger belt sander.
They're bitching.
And I've been looking at getting one of those, but I used what I had. I didn't spend any money, but man, it has taken me some time. But I have all the time in the world. I don't have all the money. So here's what's been kicking my butt is like, I don't want to get a bunch of metal down in the engine. So what I do is I'll tape off just the dome on the deck. I'll clean the deck real good with some acetone. I'll tape it all off, and then I'll throw a leaf bag, like a big leaf trash bag, throw that on the motor, tie it all up tight, cut an opening where the dome is at, and then tape that down to the tape I already have on the dome. And then it's like a big giant dental dam. So then I start going to work on it, and filings are going everywhere. when you're done, you just vacuum that stuff off, and then you roll the bag down the engine instead of like pulling it off and the stuff goes everywhere. You just roll it back on itself, and everything is contained inside. And the problem is, man, I think I've ate up like 30 bags doing this now, and I'm so tired of it, but it's getting there, and I think this will go a lot faster to get the other 4 done. I should have it. I'm going to make a prediction here. I'll have that thing up on the start stand by the middle of February, right before Valentine's Day. Maybe that's what I should do. Easy 302. It will be lit off on the start stand before February, before Valentine's Day. Yeah,
that's a good number.
Yeah, and then I'm going to have it on the dyno before the end of February. So that's the plan. Let's see. Michael Schmidt says, hello from scorched and waterless Los Angeles, where we have no drag strips or speed chops. Hey, I feel for you, man. I really do, because that's where all of the good shit used to be. And when 100%. I got stationed in California, I did not realize how bad things had already gotten in the 90s, because I used to follow this guy that did nostalgia Top Fuel stuff. And he would talk about all the heyday tracks. And when I got out to California in 1994, it was like, man, let's go to Lines. What, Lines doesn't exist? What? All right, let's go to OCIR. Like, that doesn't exist either. Like, well, what the hell? You know, where's all these tracks at? And
I grew up in the mecca of like car, Southern California, and then now I've moved to like, now the mecca is here. We have
the mecca is here in Tennessee, I believe.
It is. The absolute mecca is right here. Yeah, well, Tennessee, like that Mississippi area, you got the Edelbrock group, you've got, Bullet, we got Eagle right here. So this is like, everything's right in this area. Mala is right here too.
Yeah, well, where I'm at here, like, dude, this is where they make the horsepower TV and all that jazz, like right here.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, this is where Gears, Stacey David's Gears is right here. And then you got all the other regular YouTubers that live like right around here. Vice Grip Garage like literally lives like maybe an hour from here.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And so does Whistling Diesel, yeah. Okay, and then Mopar Owl, he doesn't live far from here either.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Depending on what I'm driving, it's only a 3-hour drive.
Yeah. Let's see. Clayton's Toolbox says, any tips for making a super long trip to No Name Nationals? I have a Ram 1500 Eco Diesel and a car hauler trailer with my green Pinto.
Where's he coming from?
I have never hauled a car that far before. I don't know where he's coming from because I don't know where he lives at, but I had one of those Ram Eco Diesels. And when I first met Shane, that's what I had. And it hadn't had the first CP3 pump, the fuel pump changed yet. That got changed like 37,000 times. But and then it had that emissions scandal deal on it. Here's something cool I learned about it though. It had 355 gears, and instead of towing in 8th gear, I towed in 7th gear, and that thing would knock down like 18 miles a gallon towing. So if you're looking at something like that, if you're looking, I did when I first started the AHRA, I put on a bounty on NHRA Super Gas class, like on their class, and I had to show up and pay the bounty. If anybody won the Winter Nationals in 2018 Super Gas and did it with a stick shift, I was going to pay him $10,000, and so I had to be there to pay him in case it happened. And I drove all the way out there. And I'm like, man, I got to drive all the way out here and back. And I can't just like literally spend money to do it, spend money to give away money. That's ridiculous. So I'm like, well, I need to figure out some way to fill the void. So I hauled cars from here, actually in Georgia, like in Winder, Georgia, all the way out to Los Angeles. And instead of like most people charge like $1,000, because that Eco Diesel did so well on fuel, I charged $800. And I undercut everybody by $200. And when I got out there, I only had $220 in fuel towing out there. And then when I came back, I just told the guy that I was going to tow it for, where I cut him such a good deal, find me a car coming back and we'll make a deal out of it. So he found me a '67 Fairlane wagon with a big block in it coming back going to Memphis. So I dropped off a Mustang for him, and I picked up this '67 Fairlane, and I brought it back to Memphis, and I charged him $200 less than a regular shipper does. But that whole distance with the EcoDiesel Ram, it did 18 miles a gallon towing. So tow in 7th gear and run, I want to say the RPM, I don't remember what it was. There's a certain RPM you don't crest. Like you don't go over like 1900, I think is what it is, 19 or 2000. Because then the fuel economy will just dump on it. I mean, like literally it's like a huge, like a plateau, and then it drops off.
For my diesel, it's 2000. The second you get over 2000 RPM, it just drops.
The early Cummins is like 1600. It's even lower.
Wow.
But that little EcoDiesel, it's a Italian made. They like to buzz a little higher. So, but 2000 was the ideal number for it, somewhere around there, like 1900. And you'll be able to tell because you just try it out. And you'll see it'll be like 18 miles a gallon, and you go over that number, it's going to be like 11 or 14. You know, it'll drop significantly.
You'll see it.
Yeah, no doubt.
You'll see it.
Let's see.
Andrew
so
Nelson says the best thing. Before we get off that, always carry 2 tire spares for your trailer. Always carry 2.
Yeah, in my enclosed trailer, I had that 2 spares. I was buying the spare. Actually, that's where I got an Amazon account. I was buying the equipment for the trailer that you mount inside. That like everybody would buy all this. You know, they buy a trailer and had nice stuff in it already. Well, I had this old junky trailer that I had bought from my dad that was used for this like moving like household goods. And I bought all the cool stuff off of Amazon. So Andrew Nelson says that we go through blue tape like it's free. I do the same thing. I had like stock in the blue tape company. I can't remember who it is, but I use it for everything.
I've got rolls of it just sitting around here for everything.
Okay, Michael Robert Emery says, Dallas, you can be a free man next week. HRA back in business. I do not know, and I'm not going to bank on that because I should have been a free man October 2023.
Right?
Yeah, that's when I was supposed to go to court the first time, and here it is. I'm giving up on this. I'm just along for the ride until the fuckery is unfucked, right? So. Let's see. Buick Smith says Dallas, the 215 V8 and the 300 run the same. The intake and exhaust valve pattern and non-tapered bearings, correct? If so, I may have a 215 cam for my 300. Oh, they run the exact same cam bearings. Yep, that's correct. And they have the exact same pattern. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to need to be a pretty hairy 215 cam for it to make any kind of difference in that 300. Yeah. 300s came with a pretty stout camshaft anyway to begin with. Because I had Shane profile one for me, and he made one with a Buick 350 pattern that off of that Buick 350 cam that you gave me, right? It would have to be pretty hairy.
Yeah, it was pretty good sized cam. If I remember, it was like 212 or 220 or something like that. It was a big cam.
It was, and I think that's a carryover. To be honest with you, I think that's a carryover from the Nailhead when the Nailheads used to have really big cams from the factory.
Yeah, I was shocked. I remember with degreeing it and telling you about it, going, "Wow, this is bigger than I thought it would be."
Oh, Mohawk 62 says Butler Performance is here in Pulaski, Tennessee. Is that where Mohawk is at? Oh, all right, that's awesome. Andrew Nelson says, how many drag strips are in Tennessee? Oh my gosh. Man, I think when I first did this, I think it was 9.
Well, from my house, I have 7 within 2 hours of my house.
But that's none of them. Like, there's only probably 2 or 3 of them that's in Tennessee, right?
One.
You have Dyersburg, Jackson.
Oh, Dyersburg and Jackson. Yeah, those 2. But then I have Holly Springs,
and Byhalia.
I have Gleason, Pickwick.
Gleason is in Tennessee.
What's that?
Gleason is in Tennessee. I don't know if Pickwick is in Tennessee. No, Pickwick's in Mississippi.
Yeah, but I think it's just on the other side of the border. Pick
It is. So is Byhalia,
Yeah,
and so is Holly
Byhalia.
Springs.
Yeah.
But like, there's a ton. You could literally
Yeah.
come down here and race at a different track every weekend for probably the whole summer. There's so many.
I've been to
freaking
2
tracks.
tracks in one day at this place here.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. And Michael Schmidt says at least California has the best smog check requirements and In-N-Out Burger, but that's no longer proprietary because they got that here in Nashville too.
Yeah, it's coming by you pretty soon,
Yes,
right?
dude. I told you, it's like here's like the new car place, man. The Mecca.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man. Me and the boy, we're gonna come up there, and we're gonna come up on like a Saturday morning. We're gonna have it for Saturday for lunch. We're gonna have it for like Sunday for breakfast.
Dude, we messed up because when you came over the other day to pick up that turbo,
Yep.
I should have hauled you out to the SoCal Taco Shop.
Oh, I know. We were thinking about that. We actually were talking about that on the way out.
Let's see. Val360. Jimmy says, when I was younger, I always wanted to go to California for the car scene. Where's a good place to visit nowadays for car stuff if you're visiting from overseas? Oh, California probably still is a good spot to go. But see, you know what? Maybe that's what Professor P and I should do is organize a SoCal freaking like car scene, I don't know,
Nostalgia
bash weekend or something, or 2 weeks in a row or something, where we take you to the good junkyards in San Diego, and then we take you to like Crower, and then the other place to go would be like Schneider and get a freaking burrito and a cam, and let's see what else is there. You had a bunch of stuff that used to be right there. Oh, what is it? Barry's Hot Rod Shop up in like. Oh, and then you got, of course, you got the NHRA Museum in Pomona. But
we could also go to like if you're into shocks, there's a bunch of shocks around there. Then there's right down the street from me used to be Gear Vendor. I mean, that's
Gear Vendor was still there. Also, you can do like I did and drive up to 223rd and Alameda and go to Lions drag strip and get arrested. That was fun because the Port Authority owns the port, so they arrest you when you like climb over. I climbed over the big end where everybody used to blow up and all their stuff would crash, and I climbed over the fence and I was out there looking for anything that looked like an old spark plug or something like that. And they rolled up and were like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "This is Lions drag strip." And they're like, "Buddy, you are high as hell, right?" Like they didn't even know that's where Lions used to be.
You know what we should do is take them to some of the like legitimate street races out in the desert. That would be kind of cool because I know where to go for all that.
You know, the good ones used to be, that was the San Diego in the 90s, man. Golly. Yeah. I still think about that. I was driving that big block Mercury Cyclone I had down 5 towards Tijuana, and you literally get off at one exit before Tijuana.
Yep.
Right. And I mean, this thing it wasn't awesome by any means. When I first got it, had a C6 and this big honking gnarly cam, and it had 2.5-inch pipes on it, which sounded really good. And it was a 390 when I got it. I ended up finding a 428 hour Thunderbird, and then it was a first year of the 428 and the Thunderbird. I think it was like 66 or 67, but and then I put that together. I put the GT heads on that, and then I put a 4-speed in it, and that thing was fast. All right, I'm way behind. I need to catch up.
Yeah, you're way behind.
All right. And Dust Up Garage says that isn't Sykeston like 2.5 hours from you?
It's about 2 hours. Yeah, it's about 2 hours and 15 minutes. If I tow, it's 2 hours and 15 minutes. But yeah, I could have put Sykeston in there. Then there's Newport. That's about 2 hours, and then the Wildcat track. That's about an hour and 45 minutes. So I mean, there's a lot right in this area.
So Clint Street Machine says, I think Bob's in Burbank might still be going. So Bob's Big Boy used to be like a big cruise-in spot in Burbank. And you would actually, if you went there, what was neat about that, if you went to Bob's Big Boy, They had
Yeah,
like
I
this
know.
drive-in cruise-in thing once a month, right? Isn't that what it was?
It was, yeah, it was. There was
It was like
actually,
happening every weekend, but it was like
yeah,
sanctioned every month or something.
yeah, it happened every weekend. But I used to go there all the time. But I think it was like the first Saturday or something like that. And man, someday you get some really big stars there.
That's what I was just going to say. You could literally be walking around with a Bob's Big Boy, just munching on a burger, looking at some cars in the parking lot, and lo and behold, it's TV Tommy Ivo or Don Perdome, or and then you might have somebody that's like absolutely like top of the heap land speed record racing guy, or Troy Ladd from freaking what is it, California Hot Rods or LA Hot Rods or whatever it was. These guys, it was like the people you see on TV, and then the big stars and the famous car people would show up just like it's a regular Saturday night in their hometown, and it was cool.
Yeah, that's actually where I first met Jay Leno. Was at that.
Oh yeah, Jay goes there too.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Clint Street Machine says Tennessee is for gearheads. It is now, but yeah. Clint and myself and Professor P were out there in Southern California, probably the tail end of all the good stuff. I mean, I started going junkyarding down there because there was this junkyard in San Diego called Memory Lane. Yeah. And Memory Lane was like old car junkyard before I'd ever even heard of an old car junkyard. And I came from Illinois. So like it didn't matter if you had something from like 1978, it was literally vaporizing in front of your face in 1994. Right. I mean, it was like nothing. It was just rotted. And I go out to California into San Diego and I go to the Memory Lane and it's like 1940s cars, 50s cars. Like, oh my gosh.
You see these taillights right here? Memory Lane right there. That's right.
But it used to be the bomb, and it was like $1 to get in. And that's the first time I'd ever seen like a privatized junkyard with like a freaking door charge, right? And
then they had
I tell you what,
remember the Primo lot?
Oh yeah. You had the regular lot that everybody could pick parts off of, and then you had the Primo lot that you paid more money in. Then you can go in there and pick off the Primo stuff.
Yeah, right.
Or they would give you the date of the car when it's going to be hauled in to the non-Primo. So you could be standing there waiting for your baby to come out of the Primo lot if there was anything left on it. Most real gearheaders, they're just like, fuck it, pay the premium money and go out there and strip the 12 bolt out of the Chevelle before it even hit the lot. Or
exactly.
It was like it was literally like not even a choice. If you're a real gearheader.
I got an 8 3/4 A body out of the wrecking yard for $49.
Yeah, see, that's what used to be great about it was rear ends were $60, motors were $160, right? And here's like the SoCal. I wish that's what we should do, Shane. Is we should do like a week tour and do a SoCal thing and take some guys that are not from California and show them all the real kick-ass car, like California spots. But the junkyarding thing should be like a whole couple days long. Yeah. There is a rule of thumb. California was one of the first places I've ever seen where people would go pull the motor out in the junkyard and put it right in their car. Okay. True. And there's so many cars to choose from. You would figure out this game plan to go pull them out. Right. And it was literally like you'd pull the dipstick. Now they drain the oil out, but the oil still remains on the dipstick. And what you do is you take a white rag and you wipe the dipstick on there. Now, there shouldn't be any metal filings in it, and it should just look a little bit dirty and not smell like gas. All right, that's indicator number 1. Number 2, you pull the cap on the radiator, and you look at the bottom of the cap on the radiator, right? It won't have any antifreeze in it because it's been drained out. But the bottom of the cap will have all the scunge on the bottom. And then you can tell if it was clean, because they don't, when it goes to the junkyard, they don't take the cap off. They literally knock a hole in the radiator and let it all pour out.
They'll cut the hose, I've noticed.
Or cut the hose, yeah.
Yeah. And then I do the same thing with the oil cap. Is I'll take the oil cap off the engine and look underneath.
Look at it. Yep. And then the other thing, like most of the time you went to the junkyard, you weren't expecting to pull the motor. So the first thing you do is you'd pull out your trusty Leatherman utility knife, because that's what you always went to the junkyard with. You never left without it because you never knew what tool you're going to need. And generally, whenever you got in a bind, you never had the tool you needed. So that Leatherman always had it. and you would cut the seatbelt out of the car and you'd pull the motor with the seatbelt.
That's right.
And yeah,
right off the
and
manifold.
most people have never seen that trick. It literally, it's like you loop it through the factory ears to pull it, and then you tie knots in the other end and just lift it straight up.
Yep.
But
or you go there on a day where you don't have any tools, and then there's a bunch of guys outside for $50. They'll pull whatever engine, and if you're
yeah,
there,
you pay the Mexicans to pull it.
I've done that because I've been.
Oh,
there
I
and I'm
did
like,
too,
"Man,
dude. I'm telling you, I had the
I have no
saddest time.
tools."
I had the saddest time in 2010. I went there, and it was like I had that 91 Caprice bubble wagon. It came from Illinois. This sucker was literally vaporizing and rusted right in front of your face. And I backed in there to pick up a motor for my brother-in-law. We had pulled a motor out of like a Dodge Stratus. And when I backed up in there with the tailgate down and the back window open, the guy says, "Are you dropping the car off?" And I'm like, "Fuck you, no. Put the motor in the back, right? Like, this is the junk I drive." And I just felt so bad that like the car I'm driving would be considered bad enough that you would assume it's going right to the junkyard.
Yeah, there's been times I've shown up there and there's something I want, and I'm just like, dude, I just want that, and it's $50. They'll pull it out and they'll have it out, and you basically go get yourself a burrito in the parking lot, get done, and then the engine's out.
Oh, Bobby Frizzell Racing says the Southeast is where the car scene and the race scene is now. I don't know. Like, I think the Southeast Gassers had a lot of sway on that. You know, they brought a lot of it down to the Southeast.
I think a lot of the street racing and a lot more of the drag and drives are in this area on this whole. And so I think that's what's doing it a lot. I think that you're going to see a lot less of the street racing. You're going to see a lot more drag and drives over the, with a specialty style of drag and drives, destination style drag and drives.
Val 360 Jimmy says burritos sound good, but not sure about getting arrested. You don't have to get arrested, buddy. You'll be all right. Let's see here. Clayton's Toolbox says the forge crank in my 425 Oldsmobile was 76 pounds after turning it and balancing. Seems heavy. Do you know what big block Buick cranks weigh? Big block Dodge, I guess. Forged is heavier. Forged is always going to be heavier.
But that's about right. A big block Ford. So right now I do a lot of crankshafts. This is what I do. Big block Ford 4.5-inch stroke is about 85 to 90 pounds. Big block Chevrolet 4.5-inch stroke is right at about 85 pounds. So yeah, you're right in that range. Yeah.
And the big block Oldsmobile has bigger mains than the Buick. So I'm assuming it probably weighs a little bit more. And the Buick big block is like the lightest big block that you're going to find. It's only 25 pounds more than a Chevrolet small block, which it probably puts it about 550, I guess. I would assume the crank is probably within 10 pounds of that 76 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's about 76 pounds. That sounds about right, because the bigger the stroke, obviously a little bit more of the radial, and then you add about 10 pounds to that. So I would say 76 pounds sounds about right. And I know Big Block Mopar is right in that range too. It's right about 60.
I think the 455 Buick is going to be relatively close to what the 440 is. Because they both have about the same stroke. Yeah. It's like a 3.9-inch stroke for the Buick, and I think it's a 4-inch stroke for the Dodge, right? The 440?
3.75.
3.75. Oh, okay. Well, that's even shorter stroke. I thought it was actually more. But
no, it's actually a pretty short stroke. Bigger bore.
Let's see. Smoke Ridge Garage says, question, I'm running an air gap on my Mile 360. Is there any performance gains in milling out the center divider in the plenum, or just leave it alone? Thanks.
Put a spacer, put a 1-inch spacer on it. Or people have done this where they've done, step downs. It does help a little bit, but if you just put a 1-inch open spacer on it, that's where you're going to get the gains on it. Also too, there's another guy who took one of those tapered and they actually turned it upside down the wrong direction. And it actually made, so it was like open up this way down to 4 holes, and it actually worked well that way too. So either ones would work better on that. The whole idea is just you're trying to get the plenum volume and have both intake sides talk to each other, and a 1-inch spacer does that well. And in fact, every time we want to make an extra 10 or 15 horsepower, we just put a 1-inch spacer on it, and it always does it.
I did a video probably 2 years ago where I took a Buick dual plane intake manifold. That's the only one that was made at the time, and I made it performance oriented because they didn't make a single plane, and I couldn't run a single plane in Southeast Gassers, and I never even finished the car before Southeast Gassers pretty much jumped the shark on their super stock class. Now it's just like, I think every class is going to jump the shark because they don't even allow you they allow you to run a clutchless setup, right? What's the mandated stick shift for if you're running a clutchless? That's the kind of question I have. It's like I have an automatic. But anyway, I guess off that soapbox. I'm pretty certain it does make a difference. Shane and I talked about it. I bull-nosed it, and then I radiused all the turns. It does make a difference. You probably can pick up 5 to 10 horsepower on it all. Is it really worth it? When you're running heads-up classes, sure, because you need every horsepower, right? But when it's like something, if you're driving it on the street, it's going to kill some drivability to knock that thing down a bunch. The ideal thing would be like take it down 3/4 of an inch, bull-nose it, radius a couple of the turns, and then let her eat. Or you could just bull-nose what you got, the center divide right now, and then just put a 1-inch spacer on it if you got plenty of room.
That's the way to go.
Yeah.
That's the easy button. Chink and make power.
Let's see. Tony's Hot Rod Garage says we ain't got shit for drag strips out west anymore. Dude, I'm telling you, I feel for you because, man, when I was there in like 94 or 5, I drove to all them tracks. I would keep tabs on what was happening on the weekends. And if I did not have duty in San Diego, I was freaking rolling, man. I went to Bakersfield a couple of times. I went up to Sacramento a couple of times. I went up to this shootout at Sundown in Palmdale, which used to be LACR.
Yeah, that was a good track.
It was a good track. And it was, what was cool about it is like, I never thought that thing would close based on proximity to Los Angeles, and it freaking did. Golly. But it was like a rock quarry or something next door, and the guy wanted the track because it had rock under it.
You know that was the first 9-second pass on a slip I ever did was at LARC.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I ran LACR and
LACR. That's what it was. LACR. Yeah.
I ran Carlsbad before they went away.
Me too. That was my first pass for a quarter mile.
I drove out to Phoenix, and it's at Phoenix they used to have an event there. I can't remember what that was called, but I went to all of them while I was out there. San Diego didn't have a drag strip when I was out there the first time, and it was freaking abysmal because you had like 1 million something people and no drag strip. And then they started. Well, they were street racing everywhere. That was the highlight. But then everybody started doing this thing called Race Legal at the stadium.
That's what I was part of.
Yeah. Okay. Triple Crown tech question. Factory suspension pickup points. Do they need to be factory metal? The car I'm looking at is rotted beyond repair. No, it just needs to be a factory style pickup point that car would have came with. Right? If you're looking at like the triangulated 4-link that was on those things, there's not really it's like what is that thing? I don't know what you would call it. It's got 2 lower control arms and a single center link and then a panhard rod. And so if it's got that kind of stuff on it still, you're going to be fine. If that's because that's the kind of cars you search for. So I'm assuming if it's something like that, you'll be fine. Just put some stuff in there and you'll be good to go.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Bobby Frizzell saying the same thing that I was saying a few minutes ago. Hey, yeah, there you go. Troy Ladd from Hollywood Hot Rods. That's what it is. Oh, really? Fab Race Mod Repeat says Tennessee and North Carolina have the most drag strips. Well, damn, man. I think if I open the AHRA back up, I need to nail all them suckers.
Yeah. I got to tell you, man, right now, Jackson out there in Tennessee, they're actually ripping up their whole drag strip, and it's going to be a full concrete 1/8 mile, concrete the whole way. They're doing that right now. They've already got the first 100-foot done, and they're doing the backside, and then it's going to be open for racing, I think, in March. They're doing that whole thing right now.
So Dust Devil Garage says there's 6 drag strips near me. Shane and I talk about this often because I have an idea. Well, we had this freaking
don't say nothing. Don't say nothing. We're working on it. After the Triple Crown, we'll see how the Triple Crown goes, and then once things with Dallas settle down, I think 2026 we're actually going to make our own something, and I think that would be the time to do it.
Dude, I'm telling you, I think it's going to break the freaking internet because it's a very outside the box, but very obvious and cool way to do it.
Yeah. And we put a lot of time and thought into this, and it's going to follow the same lines as what we did with the Triple Crown. What I mean by that is that it's going to be for the average guy. It's not going to be the high dollar people. This is, and
I mean, it's not tailored toward the high dollar stuff. If you got high dollar junk and you want to bring it out, sure, bring it out.
Yeah,
right. But it's tailored towards the regular person being able to do it.
That's right. And financially too. That's the thing.
All right. Triple Crown question. If you weigh in at 3,050 pounds and you have a weight break of 100 pounds off, what would that force you to the smaller tire? Could you decline the weight break?
Yes, you can decline the weight breaks and get close to that 3,000, but as long as you're over the 3,000, you got to run that. You can run the bigger tire. So say you're 3,200 pounds, and then you have a 300-pound weight break. You just go to the 3,050, and so that way you can run the bigger tire. The whole idea of this class was to get as close to the 3,000 pounds as possible, so you can run the bigger tire.
Right. So like we had said before, when we originally came up with these rules, the idea was based around a 3,000-pound car with 333 cubic inches.
Yep.
Right. And that's the ideal we found was the ideal setup for just cost effectiveness with as many cars as possible.
So that fit everything. Yeah.
Right. And you could literally take something a little bit smaller and like let's say a shoebox Nova, like a 62.3 Ford Nova, right? It can't even fit that big tire, 28 by 10.5. And even if it was even if you could, you'd have to modify the frame so much that you couldn't even use it. Wouldn't fit the rules anymore. So that was kind of the idea was all right, well, the Novas, they're never going to fit in there, but let them be light, Right. And that's where we started thinking wow, shit, light's not going to hurt them. Let's see. And Dizzy Izzy saying Pomona and Irwindale. What was really sad is at one point in time, Southern California, Los Angeles used to be called Drag City. And that's because you could race top fuel any night of the week somewhere in Los Angeles. Top fuel.
That's insane.
Yes. Let's see here. Val360 Jimmy said, I'm in on the California tour, Dallas. My kids would love it. The wife can go shopping. Yeah, man, just give her the credit card, put a limit on that sucker, and then we'll go see some fun stuff. Hawaii, I could do that too, because Hawaii, man, I found a junkyard in Hawaii that'd make your freaking jaw fall off. I was tromping around through a junkyard in Waianae, and I found the old, what is it? Goldfinger AFX Dodge.
Wow.
Altered wheelbase AFX car that wrecked in Lions in say 64 or 5. It's in a freaking junkyard in Hawaii, in Waianae. There's also 2 fuel altereds out there in the junkyard. But
wow.
Yeah. But let's see. Tony's Hot Rod Garage. I used to love the half price days at Pick Apart. My buddies and I would buy a trailer load of engines. Dude, they had an awesome thing in Jacksonville, Florida when I was there. Anything you could carry out was $100.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. I've seen that on the internet. These people strap it. Yeah, they got to go 100 feet or 50 feet.
Yeah, with it we had to carry it 100 feet. But the first time that thing came around, you had to carry it out of the yard. Oh. And I got 2 GT40P cylinder heads off a small block Ford for $100. I hauled them out all the way from the back and carried him with my hands. And then when I got to the front, I see this Mexican guy, and he had the most genius idea. He had got the bed of a truck, and he made a sling out of 2 seat belts and carried it on his back like a freaking backpack. And I'm like, I'm an idiot. I'm like an amateur at this shit, right? This guy's a pro.
I'm new. Damn it.
Yeah. But that's I love those days, man. When they're you walk in, just here's my $1, or in this case, I think it was $3 at that point. It might be 5 or 7 now for a pick and pull. But
hey, Tony, that's actually how I learned how to run nitrous. Was that exact right there? Pick your part. I could get a 360 out of a Cordoba for $79. I'd get the 1-year warranty on it for an extra $20. And then I would pick up 2 or 3 of those things. I would line them up, and then I would just blow them up. And I actually ran 9 seconds in this car on a 250 kit on basically a junkyard engine from pick apart. I street raced like that for years.
Okay, so Levi's Backyard Performance is taking Bobby Frizzell up on his bring back Nostalgia Pro Stock, Nostalgia Super Stock. Excuse me, his comment that he made earlier, and it says the problem with bringing Nostalgia Pro Stock back is finding which era to bring back. I love the 80s into the early 90s. It was the best, but most say the first year it started. No, that's just it. You're right with this, and what it is I've already visited this. I've tried to do this, and it is very hard to skin this cat, because just like you're saying now, from one person to the next, it's a completely different idea.
It's when you grew up,
and there's technically 3 eras of pro stock, and that's the only way you can bring them back is you got to bring back all 3 eras, and they got to be broke up into 3 eras specifically. The first era is 1968 to 1971. Okay. That's the first couple of years of pro stock. I know that you're thinking that, hey, it started in 1970. No, it started in 1968 and was a class put on by the AHRA called Heads Up Super Stock. And that's where that started from. All of the super stock racers that were tired of pretty much just owning every race got together and came up with a set of rules that were outside of super stock. It's like an outlaw super stock rule. And that ended up being Heads Up Super Stock in 1968. 1971 was the last year because in 1972 came 2 things. The Grumpy Jenkins Vega, which was the tube chassis car, because before that, they were all factory chassis. The other thing was the Lenko. The Lenko came out 1972. So everybody became Ronnie Sox in 1972. And when, like before that, Ronnie Sox, Mr. 4-Speed, they say Herb McCandless is Mr. 4-Speed, but Herb McCandless didn't take a hit like Ronnie Sox did in 72. So, the Lenko came out. And then from 72 to like 1979 or 78, that was the unlimited pro stock. It was weight to cubic inch. You could have small cubic inch or 565 cubic inch. It didn't really matter. 1977 or 8, I can't remember which one. I have to go back and look at the rule books. They became limited to 500 cubic inch, and that's when they became, you got to take 78 to 1992 is about where it really ended.
Yeah, 92, 94. Yeah.
So, and Dylan Levi, I kind of wish you would have been around in the 78, 79, 80 era because, dude, that's when it was fire. That series right there was fire, man. They had a dude named Lee Shepard. Lee Shepard was the Chevrolet equivalent to Bob Glidden, right? And when these 2 cut heads on the track, heads up, it was all out. It was one of the best shows to watch, man. Pro stock 78 to about 87, 88. It probably started with the Glidden T-Bird when he freaking started murdering everybody. Because that's when the gloves came off. It was about 87, 88. So, Michael Schmidt says, pick apart places today in LA are super ridiculous on price now. You spend 2 hours pulling apart and the inexperienced college kid states the price. And you wonder, is this kid talking to me? Rip off. Oh, that's too bad. It used to be the ticket. And what was cool was
that the prices were listed.
They used to give you a handout flyer when you walked in that gave you all the prices on it. So you knew what you were paying before you even pulled it.
And it was actually, there was a big billboard too.
Oh, yeah, hanging from the top of the building.
Yeah. So you didn't even have to, you could just go over there and look at what it was because it was all engines were the same price and all this was the same price.
It didn't matter if it was a 4-cylinder or V8. They were the same price. Big block, small block, they were all $165. And then that all changed probably about 2002, 2003 is when they started to get expensive. Okay. Old McDonald has car says, would having a crank turn 20 under be okay for drag racing?
Be fine.
20 unders, yeah, fine. Anything under 30, if you start looking at 40 under bearings, you've went past the hardening.
Yeah.
Right? So don't use that crank. Just find another one.
And here's the thing: is that if you're going to run a 20, I would also check the nitriding on that, and then at 30, definitely have it renitrited. If you go 40, then definitely have it nitrided, 100%.
Let's see here.
But the thickness of the bearing is not going to make a difference. It's going to be the nitriding on the crank. The hardness
it's
of
the
crank.
heat. It's the heat treat on the crank goes away when you cut it down that far. It only goes down like, say, it's usually about 25 to 30 thousandths.
It's not much, yeah. And it really comes down to how they finished it. So there's a lot of variables in that, but yeah, it should be checked.
So Clint Street Machine says they tried drag racing at El Toro a couple of times, but it never stuck. Southern California, I mean, gosh, the tracks, if you just list them all off, it was ridiculous, right? You had like San Fernando and San Diego and Santa Ana. And,
have you ever been to the Ramona drag strip? Not Verona, but the
Ramona, the original one. That's the San Diego.
One. Yes,
yeah.
It's at the airport. Up there in the air. I was actually on it, and you can still see it from Google satellite, and you can see it. And I was there a couple times, and they did. I never saw it race there when I was a kid, but I did see them do like, they would have nitro night there, but it was just like they would start cars up and burn flames. But I've been to the track a few times.
That was the heyday, man. See, you know what I know what's sad is there used to be a group called the Bean Bandits, and they were out of San Diego. They were all nitro, every weekend up at Lions drag strip guys. Man, I would have loved to be in Southern California by like 1962. Michael Schmidt says LACR is a massive hole today. Wow. In 1986 in high school, did my first quarter-mile race in my newly hot-rodded Type 3 VW Fastback with my Porsche alloys.
That's awesome.
Del Toro's and Gene Berg paraphernalia. Huh?
That's awesome. He's talking my Volkswagen language right now. Yeah, that's awesome.
Let's see. Don English says at the No Name Nationals only track I care to run. New 440 build coming. Fingers crossed. It's looking good so far. Well, I hope so, man. And you know what? I'm glad you like to run out there in Sykeston. Yeah, that's why we put it together, was for all you guys. I mean, John really, he wanted to do this, and I just had the means to help him out. So that's what we did, and we got this thing rolling. And it seems like there's a lot of people that really enjoy it every year as like a vacation.
Well, it's the best race. I've been to many, hundreds, thousands of different races and different events. It's the one that I always look forward to. It's the most friendly. Everyone's fun to be around. It's an actual event, so I love it.
Yeah. Let's see. SSR Performance says, I grew up in the Midwest, so I feel the same way about Memphis as you do the closed tracks in LA. It's a major bummer. Yes, Memphis has a special place in my heart because I went down there and bracket raced Memphis in 1994, and man, did I freaking clean some clocks. But that was the home of the fastest streetcar America shootout for me. That's what that was. And that was like when I was in high school, that was the thing. All of that stuff started right there. Matter of fact, where Shane works at Edelbrock Group, part of them is Comp Cams. If you go to Comp Cam's original building, which is on Democrat Road, in the back of Democrat Road, Comp Cam's building is the old NMCA headquarters.
Yep.
Okay. This was NMCA before they, like last year, the NMCA failed and went under. NMRA.
The sign's NMCA, still there.
But the original NMCA is right there at Democrat, dude. You should snag a picture of that, like the picture of like what room and stuff like that. But
remember, you came there and you're like, "Hey, that thing's upstairs." I was like, "Oh yeah, that's the upstairs." Yeah.
That's where I bought my original NMCA membership. Was right there in 1993 or 4. Whenever I came down there and ran a freaking groove in everybody at Memphis Motorsports Park on a bracket weekend. I bought my membership then, but there also used to be a bunch of places around there. You had like, I don't remember what all was there. Like MSD was there, and all kinds of companies were out of that area.
Well, but super shops you were telling me across the street, that was
massive. Oh, that super shops used to be like the biggest freaking super shops I ever seen in my life, man. It was like an old car dealership, had glass windows in it and dragsters in it, and like right around the corner from that was that secondhand speed shop. That's what was really bitching. I really
still go to that one. That's
it's
pretty
cool, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's moved now. The original one was down there by Democrat somewhere.
I think it's off of Summer now, I think is what it is. But yeah,
It's
that's pretty cool.
probably where you go to get really high smoking crack or crystal meth or whatever. The old building. It's like in the dumps, dude. But it was run by what was cool about it was run by a preacher. And like speed parts were expensive, so people were robbing each other and taking money for them. And what he did was open up a used speed shop so people didn't have to buy all the expensive stuff full price.
I still get the really good spacers from them. So all the like solid aluminum spacers that you can play with, I still buy them from that guy.
Tony's Hot Rod Garage says, if my wife wouldn't balk, I'd already be living in Tennessee or Kentucky. Hey, man, well, why don't you bring the wife along and you just vacation? I'll put a little man shed for you on my property or whatever, and you can come out 6 months out of the year and just live in that sucker.
I got to tell you, man, I thought the same thing too. But once I got out here, it took a couple of years. I'll be honest with you. But after being here, this place is better. It's much better.
Let's see. Michael Schmitz, AHRA, you could use all of us to bounce ideas off and brainstorm if that would help you get organized. Great group for that. I agree. It's a great group. The problem is you're never going to get everybody to agree on something that's like the one thing to move forward.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't have any problems with getting organized and I already did all that. I had everything kind of set up and ready to go. The one thing that I'm just waiting for this divorce to be in the rear view, and then I will need a little bit of startup cash to get this thing going again. Let's see. SR Performance saying, if I'm way overweight, can I get a head start? Probably not.
Negative.
Bobby Frizzell says that people are wanting an AHRA drag and drive. Drag and drives are some of the most fun in racing. I agree. And what Shane and I did was figured out how to pull all the expenses out, like eliminate the expenses.
Stop. That's it. That's all we need to say. Because remember, this people see this on the internet, and then everybody's looking for something special. And I got to tell you, we have something special, and we're not going to share it. And it definitely
we got to do it when I can pull the trigger on it is when we're going to announce how it works. Because dude, this is something that literally somebody would take from you.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's see. Levi's Backyard Performance says y'all should find a quarter-mile track if you make the Triple Crown class more widespread. We're just going to, right now, we're going to focus on just Sykeston, see if we can get that going. A quarter-mile track, I'd love to have a quarter-mile track. This time I won't be driving to all of them as much as I did last time, just because I don't have the time. I don't have somebody here holding down the fort. And then I guess when I did let her hold down the fort, she didn't hold it down really well unless it was in somebody else's pants. So...
Well, Levi, what I was telling Dallas is let's see how this comes in for this year for No Name. This gives them a year to build it. After that, then we might actually do a real Triple Crown. This is the thoughts on this one, is that we might do 3 tracks or 3 races in 2026.
That's what the original idea was.
That's what the
we were going to have 3 tracks, 3 races, and 3 classes.
Yeah.
So, okay. So Andrew Nelson says modified production when the cubic inch limit was 300 is the best class racing of all time. That's where 1981. That's where you wanted to be, was that class. That was the regular man's pro stock. Let's see. Tall Garage is asking Shane or Dallas, have you guys ever do any air ride bagged stuff in the past? No, I never have.
I've only done it for like load for towing, like bagged for like extra weight distribution. Other than that, no.
Let's see. BNR says there was a 409 Chevy racer famous for power shifting and Muncie 4-speed lightning fast like Ronnie Sox. Don't recall his name. If it was a 62, 63 Chevrolet, I think that was Dino Don Nicholson.
Yeah. Hey, while we have a little lull here, I do want to give a little update on the discount that's coming from us as far as the group website. The only thing we're having issues with as far as the actual website and you guys going and getting on is because it is a group, is the saving of the credit card that you're using. So because it's really designed for like one company, it's a server, it wants to save your credit card. So we're still working on that. I will let you know what's going on either with John, or I'll come on Friday night and talk with you guys about it. But it's still going to go live on the 1st. We're just not exactly sure how we're going to do the payments as of right now. So before I forget to tell you that's why I wanted to tell you right now.
Let's see. Clint Street Machine says pick your parts started sucking when they started stripping half the parts for LKQ before it ever hit the yard. It used to be LKQ yards were the only ones that did that, because LKQ was the first ones to buy pick parts. And then they created a business out of LKQ, which was secondhand parts off of cars that got dropped at the junkyard. I just stopped going to the LKQ yards because they were doing this. But usually, like the junk that I needed, like that was not really a problem for me.
My shit was old.
Yeah, and like if the alternator wasn't there, okay, I just walk over and get another alternator or something else. And I was always the kind of guy that could okay, did you know that a Ford 3G alternator off of like a 1994 Cougar with a 3.8 liter V6 has the same bolt arrangement pattern as a GM? So all you need is like the pigtail, and voila, you got an alternator that's capable of almost 200 amps. So let's see. That's how I always did stuff. I did whatever I could, what was good, and I could kind of cobble together. The one-eyed cat Don English says, Shane, would you be willing to sell that set of drag radials as a set? Sorry, I was thinking as an option. They were great for last year.
Probably not, because that's actually what I use on the Slant 6 stuff, because they're such a small size. I mean, I'll give you the size. I'll tell you what they are. You can buy a set. They're really, really inexpensive. They're really not that much money because they're small, such a small tire. I think it's 255 35 15s, I think is what it is.
Dizzy Izzy's wanting us to do a No Name Nationals drag and drive. That's not going to happen.
No.
No Name Nationals is always going to remain as it is. It's meant for the little YouTuber guy to come there with really low budget, show off their stuff, and enjoy themselves at the track. And the extensive drive is to Lambert's and back. And you don't even have to do it.
And also, too, that, the last thing we would ever want to do is step on the toes of that, because that's actually what is driving this whole community. And the No Name Nationals is always going to be the hub of how this all starts. And whatever we branch out from that, we're going to do differently. So it'll be a different time, different everything.
So Mama M3 said, Dallas, we're all waiting for you to open up a HRA membership again. That's your cash injection. Everyone send a thumbs up if you agree. Well, okay, it takes more than just that, to be honest with you. Because I don't know if enough of you right now, even if you bought a $50 membership, if you think about it, there was 100 of you in here right now. There's only 57. There was 100 of you in here, and you bought a $50 membership for 1 year. That's $5,000. And I'll be honest with you, it takes $5,000 just to do something like No Name Nationals, one thing. Okay. And so you have to generate more than that at startup, because one, I don't even have a flyer to print anything on. That's kind of how you got to look at it. And so you technically need I used to be able to operate when it was operating for about $8,000. If I could start the season with $8,000, I would make it to the end of the season. Yeah. And that's with the cash coming in from each event, pay for your gas, stuff like that. You'll eventually just get down to where you can't operate any further. But about $8,000 is what I could operate it on. Or too bad.
Or what you guys can do is buy a lifetime membership, and 10 of you could do that, and that would definitely help them out.
Yeah, but then I'm obligated to you for lifetime. So here's how I did it the first time. I offered up a stock where you could buy a stock of AHRA, and it was a non-monetary stock. It didn't go with the stock market, nothing like that. I gave you this nice stock that you can hang on your wall saying I'm a shareholder in the American Hot Rod Association. And that was it. It had a seal on it and a signature, and it was official as official gets. But and those were a couple $100, and that was my startup capital. Because the day I went down to the bank and said, "Hey, I want to run the AHRA, can I get a loan?" They were freaking laughing me out of the place. So Levi is saying, "Can we get some nighttime racing at Sykeston?"
It's Saturday night. That's what John was going to do last year, and he was going to do it again this year. This coming up year is that on Saturday night, you guys can stay and race. The only reason why me and Dallas left is because it was starting to rain. But they have Saturday night at the end of the No Name Nationals. They do have regular track day there, so there is night racing on Saturday night.
And I wouldn't mind doing like some kind of race at No Name Nationals, like a super grudge call out thing at nighttime there. That would be kind of cool.
I'm going to do that this Saturday. That's actually what I'm going to do. I was going to do it last year. Yeah. But now me and Joe were going to race, at night that night, but it was going to start raining and there was things going on. So that's the reason why we ended up kind of rushing it. But yeah, I'm definitely going to do some call outs, grudge racing on that Saturday night. And then I might even go through the pits and ask people for some grudge racing.
Junkyard D, what are your thoughts on IHRA ownership change? I don't know. We'll see where it goes. The whole thing kind of chaps my ass about this. Is like, okay, so the track there in Sykeston used to be called Jeffers Motorsports Park, named after Larry Jeffers, who Larry Jeffers offered me peanuts for the AHRA. And when I told him no, he went and bought the IHRA. And that's where a lot of this crap came from. And here we are.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Levi says he think the burnout contest should be in the daytime. Burnout's cool under the lights, dude.
Yeah, burnout's cool under the lights.
Let's see. Colin Tebow saying I'd be willing to pay $100 for my membership. That's fine. The price is probably going to have to go up, to be honest with you, because I don't think I'll be able to operate since it has went up. Well, inflation was 20% is what they were saying, but it was more like 40% over the past 4 years. So I don't think I could be able to operate it on $50 a year anymore. The price would have had to go up. But if you remember, right when all that stuff was going on, I refused to price hike because I didn't want to price hike and then have to do it again and then have to do it again and have to do it again. I wanted to do it all at one time. So we'll have to look at something. And then Miss Cat, said, like I said, I just want to help. Okay. So Don English says that No Name Nationals is now me and Wendy's anniversary present to each other, the reunion thing. Dude, awesome. You guys have a fun time and like probably like the most fun out of any group that shows up out there. I'm telling you.
It's awesome. They're always partying over there. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Let's see, being honest, saying that Dragon Drives have become a wealthy man's game to follow. It's fun watching on YouTube. Yeah, that was what we were trying to take out of that was the wealthy man's game.
And we're going to. It will.
Let's see. Casper
we'll
needs stock in the AH. All right. Well, I'll sell you some when we open back up. I'll do the stock again, and you guys can buy one and hang it on the wall. And let's see. 38 Racing. That lifetime deal didn't work out so well for Dallas last time. I don't know. It wasn't bad. It was just I was on the hook for somebody's lifetime. And when my wife left, I'll be honest with you, I shut it down. I chose to shut it down. I could have probably continued to operate. The problem was I couldn't see myself trying to sell a lousy t-shirt while tears are pouring out of my face. It was really hard. It was really hard just to like be me. And
Right?
then I throw on top of that all the crap that comes along. This job is like, you want to talk about stressful and a very difficult to manage. Yeah, try being a sanctioning body owner, and then everything comes out of your pocket. Like, see, the NHRA, the only person that ever had to really deal with that was Wally Parks, and that's like he literally had to do it in the heyday of motorsports. So it was like there was literally money falling out of trees for this dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mama M3 says, I'm in, we want stock. All right, well, no problem. I'll probably redo the stock again when I re-release it, and I'll make you some stocks up, and we'll get them hung on the wall, and then we'll move forward. But
I never bought one of your stocks. I should. I'll do that. If you open them back up, I'll buy some.
Okay. Yeah. It was a pretty good deal. Like, I made it look like it was a real official thing, like something you'd be proud of to hang on the wall. That's, I believe, is what I had originally said.
Yeah.
So
I'm definitely am a lifetime member.
Yeah, you are, and you're member number one.
Number one. No, I got driver's license number one.
Oh, well, you were also got membership number one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe I do.
Yeah. Let's see. Dallas, I was referring to the X. Oh, I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Okay. Maybe I missed something. Oh, yeah. Never mind. I see what you're talking about. That lifetime deal didn't work out too well. Yeah. Yeah. No, I get you now. Okay. Ron English says, hey, Levi, can I call out for a ride along? That sounds like it'd be fun.
Hey, somebody was saying earlier that he says, I'm calling a match race between Kat and Shane.
Oh, where's that?
818. Is he talking about One-Eyed Cat?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, that's Ron English. It says Don's brother. I don't know what that means. Maybe Ron can fill us in.
Yeah.
Oh, on borrowed radios. Oh, the One-Eyed Cat. Yeah, that's what he's talking about. So you should probably be racing your green Slant car against this thing. With your radios on.
Probably. That would be a good race.
Yeah.
But I need the green radio. I need the radios on the green car to race that.
Yeah, well, hey, I will definitely bring the stocks back out when I finally figure out what's going to happen. There's a lot of things that happen before the stocks come out. Like, I need to create a season, find some tracks. So, and then I'll put the stocks out there so we can start operating again. Let's see. Bigfoots and Mopar says, yeah, Dragon Drives now is for the rich YouTube celebrities. Just want to have fun with my car, hang out with friends.
I agree.
And that's why No Name Nationals work so well. But see, what we did was we try to take some of that essence that you're looking at for the No Name Nationals, the regular guy hanging out with your friends, doing stuff with your friends, and put it into the Dragon Drive that we created.
And that's all you're going to get. I don't want anyone to steal it, man. I think it would be awesome.
Oh, and Andy saying, I think I was in the first handful of memberships for AHR. I always loved the birthday cards.
Yeah.
You were, my friend. You were like literally like up in there, and I could probably tell you right now, but I don't even know where the membership roster is at the moment. I want to say you were like, if you look at your card, you were probably less than 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
Andy, because I went to PRI and announced that it was back, and then made who was that? Who's the guy that just switched over for the voice of the NHRA to the voice of the IHRA? That dude crapped his pants when I came out and I put that bounty on top of his race. He was like, "You can't do that," and I said, "Who's saying I can't put a bounty on top of an NHRA race?" Well, I'm saying that. I said, well, where does it say in your rule book that I can't do that? Right? And it was like, not in there. And then I said, I could put a bounty on top of whatever I want. I said, that's what Vegas does. And then he was just like, dumbfounded. Like, you can't do that. How are you going to pay people on a race that's not even your race? And I'm like, I just show up and pay them. It's that simple. If they want to get paid, they're going to give me an opportunity to pay them.
Yeah, they're going to get paid. They want to get paid.
Yeah. Buick 350 V8 Power says there's still a possibility of a weekend at your house for a gang of us to help you get the 63 Skylark closer to Bowling Green. It seems like it could work out with planning. It could. I don't want to do any of that stuff until I thought my divorce was going to be over with here soon. I would like to do that because I would really like to get this 63 Buick to Sykeston this year, because I'd really like to race Bobby Frizzell in his Galaxy.
Oh, that'd be a race.
It would be a good race, right? Like stick shifts, old 60s cars, sidestepping the clutch. Bobby would blow my doors off. So Bobby was saying that there is a lot of common guys in drag and drive. They just don't show them on TV. I do a couple a year. Yeah, that's probably the big one, is because it doesn't earn them any. It doesn't earn them any views when they show the regular
thing
guy.
is that there's not too many of them because it's so expensive. He's right. There is a bunch of common guys, but the whole idea for our drag and drive is that it's not just a common guy. It's bringing the price down. We're trying to bring the price down.
Michael Schmidt says, ditch the YouTube subscriber requirements to participate in the No Name Nationals. No, that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
And yeah, the whole idea was it's for YouTubers. If we ditch that requirement, I'll tell you exactly what would happen.
Yep.
If we ditch that requirement, it would fill up with people from Sykeston locally, and you would see nothing but Sykeston racers out there, and you would have no idea who they were or what they did or what they accomplished to even be there.
And they wouldn't care to be there because they just pay money. The whole idea of this is that you have some skin in the game. You have like some sweat equity. You're making these videos and you're driving towards a goal. So when you're there, you want to be there. Not you're just paying a fine essentially to get in there.
Let's see, Mama N3. So you got roughly 50 people offering you $200. We were all behind you, Dallas. Well, thanks. I appreciate that, Colleen. I mean, when we get this thing rolling again, I will definitely announce it to everybody that, hey, it's rolling. Things are functional, and I'm willing to take your cash, and we'll get the AHRA up and operating the way it's supposed to be, and you can definitely be a part of it and champion the way that it's going. I'm still going to pick up the people that I have as shareholders, because I still have shareholders from original, when I released the stock to begin with. And because it is a lifetime commitment between me and them, is originally how it was. You want to know what something that was really devastating was, all right, so the first year I announced that I had the stocks, I sold like 100 stocks in the first year, okay? And I had enough money to operate and do things and start the business off and get it rolling and the whole 9 yards. And that was 2018. 2019, everything started to work. And it started to go and it started to roll. Okay. 2020 is where it actually started to pay for itself. And when you run a small business, the third year is the magic year. That's the year it pays for itself. Okay. Generally, the previous years, you lose your ass. The third year started paying for itself. My third year, unfortunately, was 2020. So when the COVID lockdowns happened, that was me. That was my business. I'd already lost my ass for the previous couple of years learning the mistakes and figuring out the weather stuff and all that. And then I'm hit with COVID. So you can't hold an event. Chris Cox and I tried so many different angles to make events, but the states and the counties and all that stuff were locking stuff down regardless of what their policy was. They weren't going to let events happen. And so it was just really hard that year. So I started building motors in my garage, if you remember. And then I ended up running into Uncle Tony. And then we did some Uncle Tony and me started doing tech talk at my garage. And we've been doing tech talk ever since then. And I was building engines out of my garage. And then I started building engines, doing them on YouTube, and then selling them. So that's where we're at today.
Speaking of that, when did we started this? So the very first No Name Nationals was what, 2022?
Yeah, 22.
22. So I came to go see Uncle Tony when it was 21 because he was gonna. That's when he basically said, "I'm not going to do this anymore" on that Saturday. Remember that? And then then you and I have been doing this since 21 because we started the next week.
Yeah, whenever he stopped. When was that? 22. That was 22.
22?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Well, it's gone by fast.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Okay. Junkyard D says, can we do Saturday Night Grudge Race Pink's all-out style with mismatched negotiations?
Sure, whatever you want.
Okay, here's the problem with Friday night is a difficult time to do it. Saturday night, probably you could do it. The track was trying to operate another event on top of ours. And see, the only reason that Shane and I left is because the weather was called to be like raining.
Yeah.
And we were leaving that night anyway. And I mean, if you remember how 28-10-5 went, it was like round one, I'm parking mine on the trailer. Round two, Shane's parking his on the trailer. And it was like, do we need to really be here any longer? I've been sleeping in this parking lot now for 4 days. Yeah. Okay. Junkyard D says, best part of No Name Nationals is knowing the other racers.
I agree.
I think this year, like if you haven't noticed, Professor P and I kind of sit up right next to each other every year in about the same spot. So that way we can operate our battery chargers and generator and all this and that. I think this year what we need to do is set up a food tent. I don't know what I'm going to show up with this year, but I definitely would like to have a food tent, just grill out and hang out with people. So bring your junk over, and I want to do this community cookout, but I'd like to do it like 3 nights in a row. I think that would be cool. Good. Yeah. And where we just have like a big, I guess it'd be called like a community potluck, Let's see. Oh, Dizzy Izzy saying Tunnel Ram Mafia versus Nitrous Nasties versus the Blowhards versus the world. Man, I tell you what, the Tunnel Ram Mafia, I mean, if Andy was to really get behind this thing, I think he could really push this hard and make some serious, awesome content out of that.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Buick 350 V8 Power says, please make it a list. Thinking about that is a lot better than thinking about what percent of your ass remains. Think of it as therapy. Oh, you're talking about everything. My assets remain. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. We'll figure it out, and I'll let you guys know first and foremost. And then
I think once it's all over with, dude, it's going to be such a weight off your shoulder. You're going to be ready for the world.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, like, yay! I can breathe again.
Right? I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen.
Let's see here. Yeah, so see 38 POS Racing, or what 38 Racing says 500 sub requirements, or I'm staying at home. He's talking about the No Name Nationals, and the reason why was, like I said, it was intended for YouTubers. That was the whole point. And then, like, what we did find. See, when you do something the first time, you don't know how it's going to work. You don't know what's going to happen. And the first time we did this, here's an interesting thing that we'd never seen before. People created channels to just be there, okay? And we never expected that to really happen. It was talked about like, hey, people that already had a channel would go do this and they'd show up. But it was people creating channels, and I'm not talking like you just created a channel and got your 500 subs and then you showed up and that was it. You didn't do anything in between. That first year where it was unexpected, where people created channels, like the James and James show came out of nowhere. They had like 2 weeks left. They had I was expecting them not to even hit 500 subs, like 250 subs by the time No Name Nationals happened. they were at like 2,000 subs, right? These guys hammered it. There was all these interesting stories and things that came about out of creating that first No Name Nationals that we just didn't expect, and you didn't really understand what was going to happen. So interesting and neat. I love it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Fab Race Mod Repeat, Dallas Speed Oasis will be glad to buy some AHRA stock. Well, Chris, you already have some. I can't sell you a second one, but we'll work something out. Let's see. Here we go. 38 Racing says I can bring some beef cuts, but somebody else better cook them.
Oh, I can cook it.
Yeah, but don't worry about that. Ron Ward was like, he brought sausages one time. I think cooking it's not a problem at all.
I'm bringing my electric smoker this year. That way, it'll just be sitting by the trailer. You just bring your food over, throw it in there, and it's going to be going. So it'll just be running. So that we just throw.
And it cooks so slowly that it'll be perfect.
Yeah, exactly. You put your sausages in, it'll be great. Chicken in it, it'll be fine.
Yeah. Miss Cat G says, Dallas, what was the intake valve diameter on your Cleveland OZ head? Shit, man, I forgot. I never forget a U.S. serviceman tell me he was off to halfway on a B-52. He was very cool. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. You know, I don't know what you're talking. You're talking about somebody else, I think, but I think the intake valve on mine was 219. I'm not 100% positive, but it's a big intake valve. And with the intake off, you can literally see the backside of the damn thing. Ron English says, don't forget the concession stand for your morning coffee and foods.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay. Michael Schmidt says, Exhaust Tech 250 inline 6 flathead, 150 horsepower with Fenton headers.
Okay.
Like duration duals, probably Dutra duals on Slant 6.
Duals, yeah.
If I run single tailpipe to back, what size do you suggest? If I run duals to the back, what size do you recommend?
I would run just a single to the back, run 2.5. And then, trying to run like off of those if it's the duals. What I did is I got one of those custom header kits from Summit Racing. It was like $199, and it comes with all these different bends. So that way I could make my duals to a single. So that way I can make them equal length. And then I just ran 2.5-inch back, and it runs perfect, and it gets decent mileage.
With that 100%. Yeah.
Huh?
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see here. And then these guys are like 38 Racing, No Name Nationals is why I have a channel. Mohawk 62 is like same here, 38 Racing. And it was a great, I mean, I think it was a great thing to start and do was, No Name Nationals, because literally it was like the first thing. It was the first time somebody had done anything like that. And it was only for YouTube content creators. And I mean, you wouldn't believe the butthurt that came out of people not wanting to have the channel. There was a lot. Okay. Mama M3 says that content creators are loud in the White House press room. We started a movement. And that we did. We did start a movement.
Wouldn't that be something if one of us got up in there? That'd be awesome.
That would be kind of cool. Clint Street Machines, the 500 subs is a great common ground we can all relate to. It's actually the number where YouTube recognizes you as a content creator. Oh, yeah, that first No Name with James and James show, them guys were fun. They were cool to hang around. Clayton's Toolbox says, any tips to reduce parasitic loss on a Turbo 400?
Yes.
There's quite a few, actually, that have evolved in the past 10 years.
Yeah, there's actually the best one right now is Sonex has it. It's a piece where it takes the rear drum, and which is all the big cast iron stuff, and makes it into one type of deal. It's actually the big heavy steel things. It's all billet, and it brings it much smaller. You got much more clutches, and I believe you're taking out almost 25 pounds of rotating mass. And it's an amazing piece. It's not inexpensive, but it's an awesome piece. But that will definitely take out the massive amount of parasitic loss. If I ever go to a TH400 in this, I'm definitely going to be putting in one of those. Also, too, just your Torrington bearings. But as far as one piece that makes a big deal, it's that Sonex drum piece, and it's amazing.
So I was actually going to say the same thing as a B&R did here. Okay, so Clayton's Clayton, or he's replying to Clayton saying that Alto Red Eagle used to make a turbulator steels. I think it's a mod of the past now.
Yeah.
But you can still get those. And for the low dollar guy, for somebody that's just like cutting corners, that's a good way to go.
Yeah.
The other way is like inside there is someone does a billet drum. Billet drum is lighter than the factory one. It's actually more dense metal, but you don't have to have as much, right?
But that's actually what the Sonex one is. But it combines all drums together, so it's one.
Into one drum.
Yes. So
that's awesome.
So you know how like on the rear you have basically 3 shafts. So the back, the output shaft goes inside of the rear drum.
Right.
Well, it's all one piece, and it's all aluminum. So it's
awesome.
And it's got all the clutches
except for the shaft, right? Except for the output shaft.
That's right. Yep.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And I'll bet you can even get that output shaft gun drilled if you wanted to get crazy.
Yeah, you can.
I wonder if you can make one light enough that it takes less power to turn than a turbo 350. I wonder if you could
just get it small. Just get a short output, short shaft on it, and then run a carbon fiber drive shaft. You're good.
Let's see. And then Michael Robert Emery said, Sonex upgrades for your Turbo 400. There you go. Let's see. Bear Rose Garage says, header kits are the way to go, especially for big block Fords.
Yep.
It's the route I took this year to build a set of Sprint Roadster headers, $250, and comes with everything you need, but time to get the metal hot. I went this route 3 years ago. Because that 63 Buick, it literally bolts a 350 Buick in, but they don't make a header that fits that little 63 Buick Special. So I was going to have to make my own header, and I just bought the flanges, and I bought some already pre-existing headers for an Oldsmobile and cut them all up and was going to weld them on. And I don't know, life's been kicking me in the nuts. So, and then where did I see this one? Bobby Frizzell said, he'd be happy to run me, buddy. Hell, I'll even come up there and help you with the car. So, hey, man, I'd be down, but I just don't know if this thing would ever get done. I have to get a rear bumper first before I can weld in the driver's side rear frame rail that was damaged in the car accident. It was damaged when I got the car. And
so you know where the location
took it out and straightened it out, but I need to put the bumper in and hold the bumper in place and then tack the frame rail in. Okay, SSR Performance. I need a cheap 4,000 stall for the Turbo 350 when anyone tried to eBay junk. No, but what I have done is Marketplace, and if you can score an 8-inch Cohen converter on Marketplace or what's the other one? PTC 8-inch converter, you can literally have that cut open and restalled anywhere for like peanuts compared to buying a whole new one.
Or you can just text me and I can see what I can do. TCI happens to be one of our companies.
Yeah, I just wasn't going to throw anything on your plate, buddy. I was thinking like some restalls you guys could handle without much effort. All right.
That's all right. For those guys, I have no problem doing it, man. He's trying to build something for the Triple Crown, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So if it's for the Triple Crown, I have no problem doing it.
Okay. I need a whole car for my EZ302. What do you got?
Besides that.
All right. Heavens Mopar says, hi, Brian. My Duster's finally almost finished as well. Your build was perfect inspiration and timing to put mine together as well. It was the perfect storm to start a YouTube channel.
Perfect.
Yeah, you know what? And Scott from Heavens Mopars, he needs to drive something out to No Name Nationals this year. Okay, so BNR is saying that Turbo 400 isn't bad at eating horsepower compared to 700 R4 at 4L60E. Last two I recall used up 75 horsepower. I don't doubt that, and it's all rotational mass was what's killing it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? Levi's is telling me that PTC is $300 to $400 for a modification now. They're great to deal with. I'll own a billet bolt together someday. That's pretty pricey for just cutting it apart and restall.
Yeah, well, it's the weld time because you got to cut it. It's the machine time, so it takes about an hour to cut it apart, clean it, and so that's 1 hour machine time. Then the weld's another hour, and then whatever they take to do on top of that, that's another. So that there's your
wow,
three.
you know what? So the last time I did this was 2015 when I first got out to San Diego. I had bought this Precision Industries torque converter for my C4 Ford, and it was meant to be behind a 302 with a bunch of nitrous. And I'm like, oh, that'll work on a 427 cubic inch, Cleveland headed Windsor motor. What the hell was I thinking? It would slip at 29%. So out in Southern California is a shop called Performance, or it's not PTC, Performance Torque Converters. What is that? Maybe it's just Performance Converters, but it was Art Car runs it. The guy, he sold his original transmission shop. Art Car Transmissions was owned by somebody else. Let's say like Dave Johnson, okay? Because Art Car sold him the name. Art Car started another transmission shop called like Performance Converters, I think is what it was. Do you remember that chain? It's in Los Angeles. Anyway, I had him cut that Precision's converter open, and he was like, dude, this is a stock Pinot C4 converter. Like, no wonder it's slipping at 29%. And I'm like, oh, all right, well, let's stall her up. Well, let's tighten it up. And then hopefully that 29% becomes like 12. I can live with 12. And I put it in the car. It was even worse. And then the sad part is it freaking smoked the fluid in it.
Yeah.
Like I'd never had a transmission cooler like burn the paint on it before. But yeah, that one.
I've had two amazing converters in my life. One is the Continental converter. Remember Continental converters? They used to build them for the buses.
Continental was good. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had a little subdivision off to the side, which was their performance. You literally walked into this. It was like a speakeasy. It was a kind of little small little area. You walked in there.
It's like your Schneider version of transmission torque converters.
Exactly. So, and it was a father and son who basically did this hot rod, converters, and they had all these bus converters for the big LA buses, but they just did these things. So I had a Continental, and that's what I had in my car when I would race up there in California. That's what my car ran so well was that Continental. Number two, great converters. What's in my car right now is this Power Glide converter. Jeff Reed nailed it on this one right here. He's one of the guys over there in Norris. These guys, talk about nailing something where you're like, well, car's going to make about this much power. It weighs about this. Here's the gear. And they're like, man, we've done this 1,000 times. When you hit it with the nitrous and this car goes, I can hit it with all the nitrous in the world and it still seems to want more. I love it. Those are the two great converters I've ever had.
Yeah. Well, I've only bought one converter that was built around my combination.
Mm-hmm.
Best thing I ever did. Best.
Yep.
Mine came from Pro Torque, and it was right after I got to San Diego, and I had that converter slipping at 29%. And I pulled the tranny out 3 times in a month, and I don't remember what that guy's name was. They're up in New York, right? And it was some freaking pricey torque converter, but I can't remember. I think it was Dina Sniff told me. He said, "You'll never regret getting a torque converter made for your application ever."
Yep.
And I'm like, really? So I called him, and it was like, I want to say that converter was like $1,200, something like that. And I waited and waited and waited, and I paid him, that day. And it took like a month, and I finally got my converter, and I put it in, and I hated it. I put that junky super slippy one in there, the banana peely one, and went to the track and was doing big wheelies and all kinds of stuff. But going through the traps in the 8th mile with your 390 rear gear at 7,500 in high gear is not cool, right?
That's not cool.
No. And so I'm like, I got to get rid of this piece of crap. So let me try the other one out. And I was going to Fontana I was still trying to run that super gas deal. And I went to Fontana with that new Pro Torque converter. And I ended up taking it to the dyno and trying to get it dyno tuned before I went because I still had the flow to dyno tune in it. And damn it, if I didn't see that torque converter work on the freaking chassis dyno. And I'm like, oh, man, that's the right ticket right there.
Yeah.
So I left it in. The motor just got to like, what was cool is it got to like, say, 5,200 or something, and it just stayed there. And that tire just started freaking growing exponentially. And I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
But so, Mr. Roberts here says he's going to give you a call. He's going to give you a shout, Shane.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then 38 Racing was saying I was planning on a 4L60E. Well, it sounds like apparently the Turbo 400 might be the better deal.
Well, the 4L60E's got its place. It's got a low ratio first and a lockup converter. So
I don't think a 4L60E is actually 75 horsepower eats up because you got to remember it came out in 1984 behind a 305 Chevy that made 150 horse. It cannot eat up 75 horse.
It's literally a 700 R4. That's really what it is.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I was saying about it is a 700 R4.
Yeah.
It came out in 1984, right? Or 82.
No, I don't know. I mean, I would like to test this because we have a dyno that does it by torque, and it makes 800 foot-pounds of torque. So I can tell you how much it takes to turn it because I can do torque in, torque out. So next time we put one on the dyno, I'll tell you exactly what it takes to run it. But it's
actually,
really efficient.
That would be kind of cool, man. You should do a video on all of it, just like whatever you guys run through. If you could figure that out, whatever you run through there, like they're building like C4s today, and then a C6, and then a Power Glide, and then Turbo 350, and Turbo 400, and 700 R4, and
I can tell you.
And then you say, hey, man, here's the true horsepower numbers on them coming out of the transmission dyno.
Well, a Power Glide's 18 foot-pounds of torque. A 904 is between 20 and 22. And then the C4 is actually a little higher. It's like 20, 25, 26, and then a Turbo 350 is right in that same range. And then after that, there's a huge leap all the way up to like 40 for a 727. Turbo 400 is a little bit more, but a C6 is it's like 50 something plus.
So, and Bobby Frizzell wins tonight. He says, put a stick in it and you don't have to worry about the converter.
I agree. I agree with you. This car right here is my very first automatic race car I've ever had. That one right there.
SSR Performance says you tightened it up and probably smoked your clutches once you start putting some power to it. I'm just kidding. I'm not a converter expert. My pops keeps telling me to get a Vega torque converter. That was my dad doing the same thing, and it doesn't work out like that. I'm telling you, if you find a converter guy that you trust, give him everything that's in the build, and if you got a dyno sheet and weights on the car, give him that too. Let's see.
James, he's the Vega torque converter. That's basically your 245 core. The actual converter, the Continental, that was a 245 core. The one that's in here is also 245 core. So most of the people are running Vega converters.
BNR says Muncie force bed only takes 15 to 18 horsepower to turn.
Yeah, I can see that.
Let's see.
Depends on the gear fluid you put in there too, probably. Does that take like ATF or is it gear oil?
Those are gear oil.
Okay, so then it's definitely going to be at a temperature then.
All right. Well, we're winding down. Andy's calling it a night.
Yep, take it easy, man.
See you later, Andy. And I guess we only got about 5 minutes left. So Bobby Frizzell says BNR, you just have to control it. It's a different learning curve. Oh, okay, yeah, stick shift. All right. Well, I guess we're gonna call it a night.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you all stumping by.
I'm going to do a couple of recaps. One, just remember that on the 1st, we're going to have the group thing going live. We're still having issues with the credit cards. I will have more information about that. Go and see John Wilburn on Friday night on his channel, 7 Central, John Wilburn. And he'll have more information for you for the next day, and or I will be on there to explain it. If it's up and running, then we'll do a demonstration with a live. If not, we'll figure out how we're going to do that, but he will let you know about all that on Friday night. And one more thing, if you're looking for a Cookie Monster t-shirt, go over to Gunslinger Graphics and go see Mr. Tony and get yourself the best t-shirt out there right now, because that's a real cookie. You'll know what I'm talking about. Go check it out. And Oak Island, yes, thank you for the Oak Island there. Reminding me that nothing, they didn't find anything, and there was only a 3 fur. There was not even a 4 fur. There was only 3 fur, and it sucked.
Oh, well, I only have one thing left to say. Whoever had 856 switch pitch, right? So
that's funny. I'm actually going to do one. I'll show people here a picture. So if you got to see this, man. So here on the front of the shirt, it's going to be this. Obviously, your car type thing. But where's my camera? There it is, right there, right? But here's the grand thing right here. This is it right here. Where's my camera? There it is. Now that's a cookie. Perfect shirt. Perfect shirt. Go see Gunslinger Graphics, man. Check them out.
Colleen Tebow Sandows, you let me know when you're ready to fire up the HR. We're ready to support you. Well, I appreciate that, and I do appreciate all the people that have supported me this whole time on this whole debacle. So it won't be much longer. We'll find out. I didn't think it was going to go past October of 23, so here we are, February of 25. Hopefully this thing's over with soon. And then somebody was asking about transmission fluid, SSR performance, Type F. You're racing it, Type F.
Yeah, Type F. Now you got to have the clutches for that too, though. Make sure you got the red clutches in it. But Type F, it doesn't foam, and it's a little more stable. It works really good.
You know why I think Type F is that way? Do you remember way back when everything that was big block Ford had a C6, and including the FEs, a C6 Ford in them pretty much, and then they came out with like a FMX later. The C6 always ran super hot, like 220 degrees.
Wow.
I don't know why. It just seems like that transmission always ran super hot, and I think what it was is they had to have a higher quality fluid because when the hotter it gets, the shorter the lifespan, the less viscosity, the whole 9 yards. I think they had to have a higher quality fluid for that. And now that higher quality fluid has benefited everybody in the racing industry. After Ford put in zillions of dollars of R&D on it, but the ticket used to be way back in the 90s before everybody figured out the Type F was like the best you could get was that B&M trick shift stuff, which was Type F in a B&M bottle. So,
yeah. Well, the stuff that I use in mine, actually, Dust was asking me over this right now. Does TCS sell trans fluid? Yes, they sell a max shift. That's actually what I'm running in this. It's an amazing transmission fluid. Matter of fact, we test all of our high-end converters and high-end transmissions with that fluid. And so I know how it works. I know the viscosity of it. I know how stable it is. So I run it and everything. And I've never had a transmission type of issue. Now that I said that, I will, but never had transmission type of issue.
Fab Race Mon Repeat says the Sandman is winning the fight tonight. Have a good night, everybody. So he's out. Just to let everybody know, we have 1 minute left, and we're probably going to roll. But I was going to do a race called the Sandman. Did I ever tell you about that? The ultimate sleeper race.
Yeah.
I always wanted to do that Sandman race.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. I thought that would be awesome, dude. Yeah,
like intentional sleepers, real deal sleepers. I thought that's what's cool, but I don't know if people won't normally drag this stuff out for nothing. So, all right. Well, we're out of here. It's been a great night tonight. Thanks for stopping by. Hit that like button on your way out, and we'll be back here next Wednesday.
Yeah. You guys take it easy.
All right. See you all later.